The other side is making a very legitimate argument about the right to due process. It is horrific for someone to be accused of something they didn't do, be imprisoned for crimes they didn't commit.
I don't like this fact, but when you lose Joe Rogan, you have pretty much lost the game.
I knew I wasn't crazy.
Right.
And that's exactly what's finally starting to happen with Donald Trump and the MAGA movement right now, as one of their most influential media allies just called them out in the most brutal way possible, by appealing to that pesky concept they keep trying to ignore, the Constitution.
But then there's also legitimate arguments on the other side. Like, the other side is making a very legitimate argument about the right to due process if you get processed and shipped out of the country and put in a prison in El Salvador. I mean, I think due process exists for a reason, and the reason is it is horrific for someone to be accused of something they didn't do, be imprisoned for crimes they didn't commit.
You heard that right. Joe Rogan, the recently dethroned podcast king whose show got absolutely crushed by Midas Touch in recent rankings, the same Joe Rogan who's hosted countless MAGA figures and been widely seen as sympathetic to their movement, just drew the line in the sand. And that line is fundamental. Due process isn't an option in a democracy. This is Joe fucking Rogan, the king of the bros, the ultimate everyday guy that MAGA has been desperately courting and successfully for years.
I was watching a video today that we played on a podcast earlier of a monkey riding a motorcycle down the street, jumps off the motorcycle and tries to steal a baby.
Yeah, I saw that one.
So, what's triggered this remarkable shift? The case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a father of 3 who illegally was deported to El Salvador and thrown into a maximum security prison, despite court orders protecting him from deportation. The case represents exactly what happens when you abandon due process for political theater.
Benjamin Franklin, it's better 100 guilty persons should escape than 1 innocent person should suffer. That is wisdom.
Yeah.
That has survived hundreds of years. It's incredibly accurate, and it is the foundation of freedom.
The foundations of freedom, not woke leftism or globalist propaganda, freedom itself. And what is the White House's response to this fundamental principle? Let's check in with Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt's greatest hits.
And if he ever ends up back in the United States, he would immediately be deported again. Nothing will change the fact that Abrego Garcia will never be a Maryland father. He will never live in the United States of America again.
Never be a Maryland father? Did they actually erase a family with just the stroke of a pen? Did they just declare that a 5-year-old child with autism and hearing impairment no longer has a father? That 2 stepchildren have lost their parental figure forever? That's not governance. That's not even politics. That's cruelty masquerading as policy.
We have to make sure that these people are actually guilty, otherwise we become monsters.
Otherwise, we become monsters. That's the line that should be keeping Trump's inner circle up at night. The same Joe Rogan who conservatives believed was their secret weapon in reaching the younger demographic.
Does anyone have any questions for Patty or for me? No?
I have a question.
No? Anybody? Okay. We'll see you all later.
This is the fundamental dividing line. Joe Rogan, citing the wisdom of Benjamin Franklin, calling for due process and basic human decency, versus an administration that refuses to even take questions about a man they've imprisoned in a foreign country against court orders.
Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over? And that's why nobody watches you anymore.
The contrast couldn't be clearer. And for Trump, losing Rogan's support on this issue isn't just a minor setback. It's potentially a fatal blow to his carefully cultivated image as a champion of the common man. Because, like it or not, if Joe Rogan thinks you've crossed the line, millions of listeners are going to start questioning their allegiance as well. So at the heart of this conflict, and I'm happy to see that some MAGA people are starting to see this, is a simple question. Does the United States still believe in its founding principles? Does it still believe in due process, in the rule of law, in the idea that courts, not executive whim, determine someone's fate? Joe Rogan has made his position clear. The Trump administration has made theirs clear too. So the question every American needs to answer is this. On this case, do you stand with Joe Rogan and Benjamin Franklin on the side of due process? Or do you stand with an administration that calls a man not a father because they've decided he's no longer worthy of basic human decency?
Garcia will never be a Maryland father. He will never live in the United States of America again.
As Rogan expressed, this choice determines whether the United States preserves its foundation of freedom or becomes something monstrous instead. And if Trump can't see why losing Joe Rogan on this issue is a damn fire that he doesn't need, then he's even more disconnected from reality than I thought.
It is the foundation of freedom. Like, we have to make sure that these people are actually guilty, otherwise we become monsters.
The foundation of freedom, something the current administration seems to have forgotten entirely.